This is no ordinary A-Class. Now, it is from the limousine family, which means practicality and usability should be its defining traits. But that's not the case with this car, and that's obvious when you look at its color, you look at its stance, and you look at its big wheels. This is the Mercedes A-Class Limousine AMG A35. Now, but we're not really interested in finding out if it is still as practical, usable, or it's built to last. What we want to know is that if this is a true AMG. Now, what better way to conclude if a car is a proper AMG or not, other than driving it? You know, proof of the pudding, eating it, all that. And all that begins with the engine. Now, the A35 gets a 2-liter inline-4 turbocharged petrol engine, makes a little over 300 horsepower. The torque at 400 Newton meters is a nice meaty slab of torque that you get lower down in the RPM range. And then the engine is mated to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, and then that automatic drives primarily the front wheels, but in a pinch, that's when the front wheel starts slipping. It can send power, or it sends power to the rear wheels as well. The max power that goes, or the max drive that goes to the rear wheel is 50%, and that chime that you heard is because we just crossed 80 kilometers per hour. Every modern car has that now, so we've just gotten used to that. So yeah, so essentially that's the setup. And when you're driving in comfort mode, there are 4 modes to choose from. In comfort mode, with the 7-speed automatic, in relaxed drive, overall the experience of the A35 is of a regular Mercedes. It's quiet, it's serene, it responds. I mean, the response is the throttle response, the steering response, all of that is alert, but it's not jerky, it won't demand too much of you. It's just very progressive, very linear, very smooth. So it's a nice, relaxing car to drive when you're not in a hurry, be it if you're doing a drive between cities or just commuting. And then when you want to turn on the taps, then you can shift to Sport Plus, and then suddenly the throttle response becomes super electric, and the engine, it takes on a slightly angrier note to it. And your response, every time you get on the throttle, it just takes off. So you have to be a little more careful on how you want to use the throttle, especially if you're driving in traffic. But as the roads open up, or if you're on a winding road like we are now, we'll just wait for the traffic to clear up a bit, and then you just start enjoying what this 2-liter engine has on offer, like now. So it just shoots ahead. You can hear the engine go, and the response, the turn of speed, it all makes the things extremely sporty, very involving, very enjoyable. Of course, it's demanding, not as much as we've seen in older AMGs, for instance, maybe like in a regular sports car, but that engine, it's a very likable engine in that sense, the way it sounds, the way it feels. And if you don't choose to use the pedal shifters, it'll auto blip as well. So if you're on a winding road, if you want to get yourself all excited, then this is the setup to choose. Sport Plus, I don't know if you heard that, but there's some amount of popping also that happens with the exhaust in this. Yeah, it's enjoyable. And complementing this ferocity of the engine and gearbox is the handling. Now, of course, it's primarily, like we said, a front-wheel drive car, but it's the response. I mean, let's take the steering, for instance. It's a variable rack ratio, so there's barely any turns lock to lock, and the response, even slight response, just gets the car to point where you want it to go. Go-kart-like feeling, yes, very close, because there's some amount of body roll, but not that much. So the steering response, very immediate. You know what's happening. Is it extremely feelsome? No, but it's good enough for what you need. And then when you come to a corner, you just tip it in and it's there. It holds its line. I mean, the turn entry, surprisingly, you can carry a lot of speed going into the corner. There's no understeer whatsoever. I mean, it's surprising. I would have thought with the front wheel drive it would start pushing. It just doesn't. It just points and goes in, and then when you're in a corner, even then, I mean, it just holds its line really well. There's no movement whatsoever. I mean, I'm having a lot of fun driving this car, seriously. And then when you're towards the exit, you can just step on the throttle. There's so much grip that you just keep pushing harder and harder, and it keeps rewarding you more and more. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, is it an AMG? Of course, it's super fun. Is it scary? No. I mean, no matter how hard or how fast you drive, it just seems to be in control of the situation, so you end up driving harder and harder. But yeah, I mean, on a morning, empty, winding road, it's awesome fun. The ride quality expectedly isn't great. It's noisy and one can feel every road joint, every change in surface, and even the slightest of road imperfections. But we won't term the ride uncomfortable. You can hear it more than you can feel it. And though there's that characteristic side-to-side movement of a stiff setup at slow speeds, overall, you won't hate the ride. The lack of ground clearance, however, is a different matter altogether. It scrapes more often than not over speed breakers, and that means you will need to work your arms quite a bit if you happen to cross a village en route or something. It also means it's not a car we would take on an unknown road before the sun is up and about. Now, even though this is an AMG, talking about its interiors and features and seats and space as well, good journalism. So here goes. Inside, the A35 is just like the default A-Class limousine, but sportier. The dashboard is now mostly black instead of a two-tone layout, and there's more metallic accents than warm wood on the inside. The seats are less cushy but more supportive. You get red seat belts. You also get so much variety of mood lighting, you'd probably run out of moods, but not the choice of colors. In terms of space, it's identical to the regular A-Class limousine, so the front is still the place to be if you're given a choice. If not, the knee and headroom is decent at the back. The seats again are supportive, and as a four-seater, the A35 does work well. It also has a big usable boot, in case you were wondering. Features-wise, the A35 is fully loaded. You get a dual-zone climate control system, front electric seats with memory, and all sorts of adjustability, including an extendable seat squab. There's a detailed driver information system in full color, a detailed multimedia system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the A35 also gets Mercedes' MBUX system. The latter allows the user to track the car, set up preferences, and use AI to deliver a more customized experience. You also get smart adaptive headlamps with auto dip and cornering functionality. There's a panoramic sunroof, and on the driving front, you get cruise control, driving modes, adaptive damping, 3-stage ESP, on-demand all-wheel drive, and to increase agility around corners, the A35 can also brake the inside rear wheel when in a corner to tighten the line. So what makes an AMG? In my opinion, AMGs have always been the wilder, sillier, over-the-top versions of palatable and likable regular Mercedes-Benz cars. AMGs have always been loud and edgy, and if you chose to drive them without the driving aids, well, they were more than just a handful. AMGs never had a sense of occasion to them. They were the occasion. So, is the A35 really an AMG in the same mold? Well, we don't think so. Now, don't get us wrong. As a car, no matter how you slice it, it's brilliant. I mean, it's fast, it's involving, it handles really nicely, it looks good, and even on the inside, the quality, the equipment, the features, all of that is there. You can use this car almost daily and live with it comfortably. And even though it's designed to handle, the ride is still not extremely unbearable or uncomfortable. But as an AMG, it's just not wild enough. It's just not that overbearing when you drive it. Anybody can get into this car and drive it fast. Even without the driving aids, it's not a car that's going to scare you. And that, I think, should have been there as an AMG. At least that's what we've known AMGs for. But mostly, this doesn't come with a name plaque on the engine. Now, AMGs of yore, somebody in Germany sat and hand-built that engine and then proudly put their name on that engine. It was there on the A45, the one that was sold before this came in. It's missing on the A35. And for me, that is what kind of dilutes the whole AMG experience when it comes to the A35.